Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to start by turning the meeting over to Mayor Wyant. And the mayor will introduce Major Clutty, and then after Major Clutty's presentation, Chief Aziz will join us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I appreciate you, all of your interest in these important conversations about public safety in College Park and around the county. Happy to be joined. We will be joined shortly by our relatively new Chief of Police for Prince George's County, Malik Aziz. But we have several officers joining us this evening, and we're going to start right now with a presentation of our recent crime information. I want to acknowledge Corporal Lobin and Corporal Nunez, our two community liaison officers that work within College Park, and I want to turn it over to Major Coletti, who works with the Prince George's County and helps facilitate our contract police program for the city. Major Coletti is going to talk about the recent crime statistics. So good evening, Major Coletti.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Sharon, could you put up the screen? Is it possible to put up the screen for the total of the 2021 crime stats? The ones that start off in January, go all the way through December. I think it's page 12. While Sharon's pulling up the slide here, I'll go ahead and discuss about crimes that took place in the city in October. So in October, we had reported one assault that took place. And if you go back to September, we had four assaults. So we're definitely treading in the right direction. So we're -3 for the month. Talking about citizen robberies within the city, we had one reported citizen robbery for the month of October. And if you go back to September, we had 0. Commercial burglaries. In October, the city had one commercial burglary in the city. The month prior, we had 2. Going down to the next crime of residential burglaries. For the month of October, we had 1 reported burglary. Last month, we had 2. So if you look at just burglaries alone, that's something that we're trending in the right direction. This is something that we can work on with the help of the citizens of the city and increasing our patrols. So that tells me that we're doing something right for the month. The next category is something that's on the increase in the county, and that's theft from autos. Last month, we had reported 18 vehicles got broken into. The month prior, we had 14. I need to stress this to all the citizens that are on the line. Please, whatever you do, please lock your doors to your vehicles, remove your property. I would probably estimate that close to 50% of all of our theft from autos are contributed to people leaving their vehicle unlocked. So remind your friends, your family, lock your doors, take your valuables out, and that should help us with some of these theft from autos. This is just not unique to the city of College Park. This is something that we're experiencing in the county itself and also along with the tri-state corridor. We've had a report of 21 thefts. Last month, we had 13. And finally, just the talk about stolen autos. Last month, we've had 13, and the month prior, we had 8. I'm going to move over to something that a lot of citizens always ask, talking about vehicles with loud exhaust. As of today, the contract officers have written 151 citations for vehicles with loud exhaust. They have issued 52 warning notices and 62 equipment repair orders. One of the initiatives, I think one of the reasons why we're having a great success with burglaries down in the Old Town area right now is I have our detectives working out of our Division I station working overtime in the Old Town area, passing out flyers, making sure that the students understand to keep their doors locked. One of the problems we see in Old Town is that students will not lock their doors to the residents. This creates a problem. People walk in, they remove items. So something that we started a couple of weeks ago is I have the investigators working overtime, being out in the community, trying to stress to the students to lock their vehicles. One of the new initiatives that we're going to try to start here, hopefully the next couple of weeks, I haven't had the opportunity to speak with Chief Mitchell yet from the University of Maryland. And Bob, this is also for you. I'm going to try a pilot program where we can put out as much information on social media regarding when the students leave for break. Every year when the students leave for break during the holidays, we see an increase in burglaries in the Old Town area. So one of the things I like to do this year is flood the students with as much social media as we can, whether it's coming from the University of Maryland, from the police department, or from the city, trying to get them to lock their doors and remove their valuables while they're gone for the winter break. I think that's all I have. I'll be open up for some questions real quickly. If Mr. Mayor, if we have time for that. Bob, you can remove the maps.
Sure. Why don't we just see if there are any brief questions about the crime statistics before we go to I do see the chief on the line. Any quick questions about the statistics? There I see Jamie Lark.
Hi. Just to let everyone else know, a couple of my neighbors reported that their cars were broken into this weekend. I'm up in North College Park off of Muskogee and 48th. And several of them had their vehicles gone through. The doors were not locked. There was nothing in the one vehicle. And I asked them to make sure that they reported them to the police department. They said they would. So this happened Friday night into Saturday morning.
Jamie, did you say the vehicles were locked or were not?
My next door neighbor, their doors were not locked because they didn't want their windows broken. But there was nothing in the vehicle of any value at all.
Okay.
And the other one I saw was just reported on next door, and that was up the street from the first incident I mentioned.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I believe the chief is online.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I just wanted to see if there are any other questions quick, and then we'll go to Chief Aziz. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for that update, Major Coletti. So I want to go ahead and introduce our Chief of Police, Chief Malik Aziz, who was sworn in as Chief of Police for Prince George's County in July after being unanimously approved by the County Council. Chief Aziz has a distinguished career, most recently with the Dallas Police Department, and served as deputy chief there he started not most recently. He started his career with the Dallas Police Department, served as deputy chief there for nearly a decade, and is also the former executive director of the National Black Police Association. Was brought on board as a reformer and a strong proponent of community policing, and we're very excited to welcome him to Prince George's County. So Chief Aziz, I haven't actually met you in person. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do that at some point, but glad to have you here with us this evening.
Well, thank you so much. And it's good to meet you all online in this new era that we're in. And I haven't met you yet, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking forward to meeting you. It seems like I've been all over the county, meeting a lot of people over the course of 6 months. Matter of fact, just tomorrow will be 6 months since I've been here. I was here just a few days before that, but my official date just a couple of days away. So I'm excited to be in Prince George's County. I'm loving everything, here, and the change of scenery in such a beautiful place in this part of the country. And the Prince George's County Police Department really has a vibrant brand and very robust. And as you heard, it's people like Major Coletti, who you're just hearing from, and all of our Hyattsville Division I staff who make all these things possible with your help in a real partnership. I do see my Deputy Chief, Chris Price, on here. You wave to the people, Chris. He's the Deputy Chief over the Bureau of Homeland Security and Intelligence. And I don't know if I see any of the other Deputy Chiefs here. I know Major Shuxton is on. He's the Acting Deputy Chief over the Bureau of Patrol. Again, it's been really exciting for me to be here with the challenges that lies ahead for us. So we've been hitting those challenges head on to try to bring Prince George's County, back and restore its brand to its rightful place in our county and in policing nationwide. I think many of you would not be surprised to know that Prince George's County is among the major cities chiefs association, in association with that, with 69 other top ranking counties and cities in the United States. So our voice is heard nationwide about policing and where we're going with policing in this new era of reformation. And we've always been that way in this reformation stage. I can tell you that the challenges that really lie here right now in front of us, notwithstanding the 50 recommendations that were made and the 46 that were chosen by our county executive, of course, that is on the front burner of how we actually implement those recommendations. But there are other things in the subtext of those recommendations that we're focusing on now, and that is bigger challenges with staffing, where we have a shrinking workforce. All across the nation, policing is shrinking, and Prince George's County has not been immune to that nationally or in the region. So we're having major challenges with bringing our police force back to a strength that delivers a desirable and deserved police service. So we're addressing those. Just recently, the starting pay was bumped up to at least put us in the conversation of better paid police officers in the top ranking departments. And now we rank number 5. We moved up from number 8 to number 5, 8 out of 11. Now we're number 5 out of 11. We're working on a more comprehensive package to attract the best and the brightest to Prince George's County Police Department, which we think will result in a better police service for all of you. And those challenges remain there with staffing. We're looking at retention type ideas to keep the veterans that we have in the workplace. And all across the nation, young people are choosing not to enter the police service, and others who are with us are choosing to leave the police service. And some people are looking at, the pandemic or national climate as causes for those. But I think the criminologists and sociologists will better determine that in many years to come. We're also confronting other issues that we need to implement with the passage of the accountability of which is known as police reform by our state legislators. And we have to, October 1st, we took a whole different turn. We're going to have to implement those. Some things that we started here with the command staff. The executive team was chosen among some of the best that we have to offer internally. And we started looking at how we would actually mete out some of those responsibilities to give you that best police service. And we came up with a lot of things that we would do. One of them was to reorg the department in a way that we think is appropriate. And that meant that some shifting things that have been in places for decades, or some things that would make common sense. And I can tell you one of them, because you heard us referring to Hyattsville as a division and not a district, which one of the confusing terms that most of us got confused with the council districts, and we didn't know if it was the police district or the council district that many people were talking about. But it also brought the reformation of Community First, which was the former Community Service Division with a lot of other elements added into it to better serve you and better serve all of the residents in our county. So the Community First Division will serve as that mechanism for community policing and community engagement, but that doesn't remove any cops from your division. The cops officers will remain so that we can have a viable exchange of information and communication, part of what you heard Major Coletti talk about. And so we're going to move forward with that. But we also created the 21st Century Policing Division that would actually stay focused on those 46 recommendations, the DOJ recommendations, and some of our assessments that we had, as well as gain accreditation from the national accrediting body, which we once had here many, many years ago, that we want to restore that so we can be an accredited agency that brings a lot of credibility to the organization when you get accredited. So we're looking at all the ideals inside of 21st Century Policing to deliver you a better police service. And I think we're on the right road to that. Before I open it up for any questions, I just want to speak on one last thing, because I touched on it earlier, but our partnership is a 50-50 partnership, and we have to believe in each other. The only things that I have seen work around the nation is when police and community actually work together to resolve those issues. The problems are many, and we often can restate the problems, but we don't have enough solutions to actually deliver something that is meaningful to our public at hand. So we want to be allies and partners with you, and using this platform for an example, the show we talk about property crime. Property crime across the county is down, but that doesn't mean that we don't have issues with property crime. I've heard issues here with stolen vehicles and breaking and entering, which we call, burglary of motor vehicles. We've had a high rate of stolen cars, more than we had last year and more than we had in 2019 for stolen cars. And we also have seen an uptick in violent crime across the county. And again, I think that the academicians will, better serve us and to try to figure out what the causes are in the years to come. But those things have given us great obstacles to get over in the next year to try to bring it, with a shrinking workforce, to try to bring it into some kind of range that some of these criminals would not plague on our best residents, making victims out of all of us. So it's been really telling to look at how many guns we take off the streets. Last year we took plus 700. The year before it was plus 800 or so. And this year we're still into 740 or so guns now off the streets. And we have seen our society grow more and more comfortable with violence, or carrying the tools of violence, and to use them in a negative way, and not use them, for any kind of way that would represent some kind of self-defense or to protection of the homes. And we have seen our courts. Right now, we have at least 9 courts that are operating even in this pandemic. But our prosecutions are on front and center for how we actually prosecute some of the violators who have shown that they can't live among us, and how all cogs in the wheel need to work in unison with each other. And you're part of the cog in the wheel, with the community being our best asset for intelligence and information, and to hold all parties accountable for what we do. And as your police department leader, I speak for the men and women who serve you, that we want to be held accountable, and we want to work in partnership with you. And I speak for my executive team and your police officers who serve you every day. So, but with that said, I know you may have some questions to ask me, maybe things I just talked about, or just some general questions that you may want to know. And I'm here to answer those questions for you. I would oblige you, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay.
Great, thank you, Chief. And I'll start, and I'll ask people to start raising their hands in the Zoom feature. You click on reaction, and then above that it says raise hand, and you can raise your hand and let me know that you want to ask a question. But I want to start with, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the reform efforts and about what that's changing within the Prince George's County Police with the legislation that passed this last year. And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, you had another part of it?
Oh, no. Well, in particular, I was interested in maybe you can touch on the, because there's this growing awareness of the need to look to examine how we respond for people who are in crisis, people with mental health issues. And I know that's doesn't, there's maybe a separate question from the reform that's legislatively mandated, but what you're looking at in that regard, I'd be interested in as well.
No, that's fine. Let me answer the first part, because I think the two main focus points that we're looking at under the new law. One is how we respond to officer-involved shootings, and officer-involved shootings will now be handled by the Attorney General's office and the MSP, the Maryland State Police. And we have the fortunate thing about us is that a retired Deputy Chief Tony Schottner, who was here for many years, he is now the chief investigator over in the office, and he was charged with formulating how things would go, and he had great input. So for a lot of those things you won't see, but it does bring accountability and transparency into the process where an officer, unfortunately, is involved in a shooting, police engaged shooting with a resident or a civilian, and that right there changes the biggest things that you won't really see until it actually happens. And we know in this business that it hasn't been if, it has always been when. That is the biggest change. The second one is that things that you can see, like how we will respond to warrants. And all warrants must be videotaped. So we're working on that aspect. And the idea of no-knock warrants being heavily scrutinized more so than they were in the past. And so we've seen our no-knock warrants really be reduced even over the past 2 years, not just last year. Ever since the unfortunate killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, it put a spotlight on policing and how we ran warrants. So those are two major points that most people, it will end up in the news on those kind of things, and you'll be made very aware of it on how it's reported. Now there's some things down the road that'll take place July 1st of 2022, and even further with body-worn cameras and how we are equipped with body-worn cameras. You will be happy to know that all of our officers in patrol have been outfitted with body-worn cameras, maybe outside of those who are in just the teens. You're talking about 11 or 12 people left, and we're appropriating equipment from other places to make sure that they have a body-worn camera on. So we've been really years ahead of this. Prince George's County Police having in-car video and officers equipped with body-worn cameras. A lot of these things that the legislators are talking about, Prince George's County were engaged in them for many years when it comes to training for de-escalation, implicit bias, and all those things you would expect in a police force, a bias-free police force, one that believes in equity and fairness, but one that also believes in relational policing or community engagement and a way that it treats everyone with dignity and respect, and making sure that we effect arrest with professionalism and dignity and honor and courage and being ethical and moral, as you would expect your police force to be, your police service to be. And so we're doing those things. So down the road, there's a lot that's unknown with the law, because with the laws did not come procedures and policies. And we don't really expect those to be made clear or bring clarity to some of those things, at least for another year. but we've already implemented those. Now let's go back to the thing that probably get your second question, and probably that gets us on the news and the national limelight. And that is our engagement and interaction with people who are in crisis. And I say this, we don't know the person before we show up. We've had very limited, action with them. And on the good day, they're really great people. And anyone can suffer a mental illness or a mental psychosis. And we deal with people who unfortunately go through those things in life. Now, throughout the years, we've added value in our police department with most people would say, well, we hope officers are getting trained. And every time I ask people, they say, well, give them 2 or 3 hours of training at least. We give the great majority of our officers 40 hours of training in dealing with people who are suffering from some mental psychosis. And that part of it is what the recommendations came to a conclusion about, because that is what affected the great many of police interactions that have went negative in the past. While we deal with thousands of people every year suffering from a mental crisis, then we needed the training to go with it, but we also needed another method. So out on in several departments in several cities, including the city that I come from, that we ran a program that dealt with police engaging with crisis civilian personnel who were specially trained, we call clinicians, in some cases having EMS or paramedics join you in a collective co-responder type model. The health department, Prince George's County Health Department, was tasked with leading that way, to leading the effort to formulating a crisis intervention team. And we're some months away from that. Again, your police department is not spearheading that. It is the health department with the county. And we are players, we are supporters, and we are team players in it as we await further instructions on what model they would like for us to help them when they implement it, whether it is a co-responder model or whether it is a single model where clinicians respond. And we already do it now. For 911 calls that come in, the groups that we work with who are NGOs, they call us when they need us and they have a call. And some of them we're independently dispatched to when they have the verbiage in it that would warrant that a police officer would be dispatched no matter if a clinician called them or not. I think what you'll see in the next 4 to 6 months is Prince George's County stand up a program that many of you have wanted to see, and that is a interaction that is led by clinicians, and police are there to make the scene safe, and even paramedics are even called to attend to anything that would go into a direction that we would not desire it to go. Unfortunately, those things are happening. So we are dealing with them, and we are making inroads into the mental health aspect of engagement between police and community. And I would see the type of models, we support either one of them, and we're going to get our directives and go in any direction that the county health department desires us to go. We stand prepared because we don't want to go out and hurt anyone suffering from mental psychosis. We want to make sure that they get the best help that they need. And I'll tell you an offset to that, Mr. Mayor, is that we were discussing last week about, because we have a shrinking workforce, and we often take individuals to the hospital, and the waits have become tremendous because we have a large amount of our population who are dealing with these issues that the police are involved in. And there are different percentages that have been quoted, but they have gotten as low as about 65% of the people we deal with, and they've went as high as 87%. But I can tell you this, it is certainly a large number of people that we engage with who are suffering from a mental psychosis, who may be suffering from alcohol or drug addiction. And it makes for a very bad interaction between police and our citizens who are not up to the level that we would think all residents should be up with, but that's the nature of policing.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Appreciate that. So I saw Ms. Hartnett that you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
I actually wanted to say something about Major Coletti's presentation, and that I think there has been a reduction in actually the loud noises from these cars. I think that the police action has made a dent in the problem, and we're seeing the benefit of that, and I'm grateful for it.
Great, thank you. It's good feedback. Good to know. Councilmember Kabir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Chief Aziz, for coming to College Park virtually. One day, probably we'll see in person. We started this community meeting in person, actually, before the COVID days in College Park, in a community meeting, in a community hall, in actually a restaurant. And I hope to go back to that format someday, and we're going to see you in person, meet you in person. So thank you for joining. My question is about the community policing, and I know you have championed in your previous position before coming to Prince George's County in that area. And there has been, as Mayor mentioned, there has been a lot of changes going on, reform going on in the police, the community policing area. Is there, and in College Park, we do have two fantastic community police officers, Corporal Lobin and Corporal Nunes. In addition to that, is there any program or any resources you have been thinking of that we should be excited about, that we can actually use to enhance community policing program, things like Neighborhood Watch, or we have a community police academy programs we have. But in addition to those existing programs, is there anything you can talk about?
Well, thank you first for welcoming me, and hopefully I will meet you in person one day, hopefully soon, as the pandemic subsides. Let me talk for a minute about, real engagement for community policing and what that engagement actually entails, because I tell people that there is no difference in between our crime reduction efforts and community engagement that results in a circular community policing model where an engaged citizenry actually engages with police and other community members in order to resolve problems that lie in our neighborhoods. And so we're either attempting to reclaim a neighborhood, or we're maintaining a neighborhood, or we're attempting to progress our own neighborhoods. And sometimes we're doing all three at one time in where we exist. I have a real belief that we have not actually seized and operated in a manner which promotes most of the programs we already had. When you look at the number of residents in a particular community, in a particular division or sector, or even a beat, where we actually engage and the police in the community become one with each other for a unity and progressive type purpose. And first, we have to deal with those issues. How can we invite more people in? How can we engage our youth to be more proactive in civic duties? And what does that mean? Do we engage in social media, which is what we did in the past? We opened up our social media aspect for Twitter and Facebook and Nextdoor and neighbors from Ring. Any method that we could get, we chose those opportunities to engage in. Although it was just a few people in each place, we have to meet people on their own territory. And that's what we need to do for community policing to expand, is that as we get out of traditional models of community police interactions, just for instance, this very forum right here would be a deviation from the norm of what we normally would do. We would call a meeting, have a specific place, and hope that people show up, and they would. But the most citizens who would show up would be those who engage with us on any given day throughout the week, who really cared about the community. So we must expand that across the board, any which way we can. We must identify those places that mirror high crime and the less citizen interaction, that we formulate HOAs or civic associations or crime watch or community watch, and in some cases business watches that we don't actually do enough of. In my particular interest for my past, the business community was the least amount of group of people that we actually engage with, and they can formulate a viable business network when we're dealing with issues that plague some of our central locations for retail, convenience stores, and all those things. So we're looking at engaging our convenience stores, such as the 7-Elevens. We're looking at making a better partnership with our gas stations where so much crime happened. And because I don't want citizens to drive past the gas station that's problematic to go 2 or 3 miles to another gas station. So we have to engage those owners, the people who actually run them, to deliver a better product in those places. Just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, I looked into another program that some other cities have done, that it's Motorola centered, and that is what is out of Detroit called Project Greenlight, that we can utilize some of our technology with cameras in some locations so that we can see things. So we're going to make an attempt. Deputy Chief Price is leading the charge for us to develop a real-time crime center where we pull all of these things into one location. We're one of the very few out of the 70 major cities in the United States. We're on the low end of the departments who have yet to develop a real-time crime center that engages technology in shrinking workforces with information and intelligence for us to engage with you and to make sure that we provide a safe environment for our community. I'm looking at, when you brought up the Citizens Police Academy, we're starting a community police academy. And I'll say the word community because in this particular case, we're going to engage our Latinx community inside of an all Spanish speaking community police academy, that they would be able to hear it in Spanish and interact with our instructors in Spanish. And we have very little representation for community policing from a large El Salvadoran community, and they have been overlooked. In my experience, that I found it beneficial to reach out to the Latinx, the Asian community, and formulate different methods of engaging with people of different cultures and ethnicities who may have a different view or different perception of law enforcement. So we're going to bring those things, here also. But I think the biggest thing is what I said earlier. What we needed was to close our hands and to have a better punch, a fist dealing with community first and the aspects of that. So we're going to pull in our faith-based in one place. I moved, many of you may know Sergeant Rodney Gauls. He's our faith-based liaison. So I moved him from the courts over to where he was signing people in and out of court. I moved him over to be a full-time faith-based liaison under Community First so that we could reach out to our churches, our mosques, our temples or synagogues, or just religious places of worship. So we would bring them in so that we could formulate in a place that would reach out to our youth with the Police Athletic Activities League, who seems to, with Sergeant Dotsey, and he actually goes out and partners with many other NGOs and non-governmental organizations to help with the youth or help with homeless or help with giveaways, to help make sure people have enough food to eat. So those things, the police department play a vital role in. So Community First is going to serve as that mechanism and umbrella to give a better direction for even our cops in divisions. For so long here, we've been loosely decentralized and not making any effort. Well, while I won't centralize cops, I will centralize the thought process that we should engage with each other and we should be doing more activities like bigger health and safety fairs across the county, not just in one location, that we should be engaging with our citizens and with things that we think is beneficial. We do coffee with cops, and that's good. We usually do them at McDonald's, but there's a different aspect for coffee with cops to be done at a Starbucks. There's other things that I implemented back in Dallas that we would have, that I had a bunch of great people working for me who would put things together for me, like pizza with the police, or the ice cream giveaways that we did in the summer, where I got on ice cream trucks and went to different neighborhoods and engaged with the community with ice cream and snow cones. What you'll find in me is that I'll do a great many of things just so I can have a conversation with the citizens in the places that they normally go to, because I do not expect citizens to always come to us, or residents to always come to us, that we have to go out and we have to meet them and we have to engage. And we do that across, whether that's in the physical presence or whether that is in a social media presence. So those are just a few of the things that we're bringing forth for 2022, especially when a little warmer weather comes back around here. I know we're in the cold season now, but we're going to get back to those kind of things. And I believe we have the team in place, and we have a lot of young shining stars here who love engaging with the community, like the ones you just mentioned, and a couple of them who I see on the call right now. And we're going to move forward with that. But here's the last thing I'll say. If you see a way that we can engage better, that we can have a better community police relationship, that there's something that you think we can do, that we can partner on, or something you read somewhere else, like we're doing a version of Operation Ceasefire, where the community with Pastor Lee, who's working with us on reducing violence, especially gun violence, with credible messengers of violence interrupters. And so it was people like him who we engage with to come forth to help us resolve some of the issues that we have, whether they are violent crimes or nonviolent crimes. So if you have something and you think a program will work, or something that you've seen or read about or heard about, let us massage it, engage with us, because those are some of the best ideas that will result in better police community relations and hopefully some kind of dynamic reduction in those type of crimes. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from you. I have an open door, and I know the police officers who serve you have an open ear to listen to you, to make those things a reality.
Great. Thank you, Chief. A lot of exciting work. Really excited to hear about the engagement with the business community and the Latino community. It's great. Carol Magnus.
Okay. I know you've talked about using social media and Nextdoor, but I do want to mention that you have a senior population, or also some of the non-senior people who couldn't care less. They don't know what the thing is. They don't know what all these Facebook and Instagram and, whatever. Have you looked at what you might be able to do for that population? I'm thinking specifically, we have a senior / disabled resident building, and I'm not sure that they would be able to start getting out to finding out what the police are doing, what they can, how they can partner with. And I guess I'm concerned about those people not finding out what's available.
Well, yeah, let me address that even further to offer some clarity to it. Again, I believe that there are many avenues to reach people, and there's just not one way to reach people. And so what I mentioned was our traditional way, which is the way we meet people face to face. And as an example, in another division, they're doing exactly what I want them to do as far as engaging our senior population. So I'll talk about a couple of things. One is they're going out to the senior centers which I would expect that our cops officers and our Community First Division would facilitate that kind of interaction with our seniors. And so they are out at the senior center. I believe it's Thursday. Major Acting Deputy Chief Major Truxton may correct me on it, but they're going to be doing some interaction with our senior population. But that should be happening at all of our senior centers at some point in so many months for that kind of engagement to take place, because I don't expect some of our best citizens, our seniors, to be having to travel and engage. And that's what I was talking about earlier. We have to meet people on their own terrain and their own territory to go out and go to the people. We can't expect the people to always come to us. I'll say one other program here. We have a very good program called Seniors and Law Enforcement Working Together. Seniors and law enforcement working together. It's called SALT, S-A-L-T, and it's a good acronym. But we have that program in place that is facilitated by Sergeant Dotsey in the Police Athletic Activities League, but it crosses many boundaries. And our cops officers at our divisions are able to introduce those things. We're also implementing things for our seniors that we have seen become victims of financial scams. So our Financial Crimes Division has been going out to different events and talking about scams and putting the things out for our senior population who some people are trying to take advantage of, who are more vulnerable. So we are doing, reaching out in every aspect to make sure that we engage with our senior population. And Prince George's County is not unlike where I come from. Most of the in-person meetings that we would attend across my former city would be attended by some of our best citizens who just happen to be seniors. And when we went to other venues, it was a much younger population. So I would say I love your ideas on that, and you're on the right track, and we're doing a great part of that. We can always do more. So I would be looking for my cops officers to work with you and hear more input on how we can reach that population. I believe it would be beneficial. Nothing would beat your perspective, one we don't have, into engaging with the people that you're talking about engaging with. I think it's so important. And I want to be there with you to make it a reality. So let's hopefully that you can interact with Major Coletti and his group to make that become a reality, just as Division 5 is doing out there and some of their senior facilities out there. So I know it can happen. So Carol, thank you so much for that input. It means a lot to me to hear you say those things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beckness. Let's see, I'm looking for other questions. If anybody has a question, you can acknowledge, raise your hand in the Zoom feature, and I'll acknowledge you. Ms. Lark.
Hi again, Chief. Quick question. What can the citizens do to help you and the department?
Well, that's so much right now. We probably could talk all night.
Let's do it.
One of the biggest things that I think right now that we're confronting that we need help with, and one is you already, a couple of things, but one is you already given to us, and that is your support for this policing service. It means a whole lot to tell the men and women who come out and work every day in a very difficult job that they seem to make look easy for 99% of the time. And in those worst times is when it is on the local or national news, when we don't look so good. But they do a tremendous amount of work. So just making sure that we have a simple thank you, some support for the police, the men and women who go out every day and put their lives on the line, so we can have a better, and we are the most visible form of democracy in action. And we want to make sure that we have a better and safer county, and they do it every day. The second, thing is, and when I say people can help us, internally, police officers, I tell them they're the best ambassadors, but a ambassador can be anyone. And when we're talking about what we need people to come join the police department, people that you see every day, people who you think may be good police officers, people you could spread a word about. If everyone would deliver us a couple of people or just one person to come join up with the police department, our struggles would be over as far as personnel strength. So we have a responsibility internally to go and recruit and put our best face forward for every negative incident. It puts us 1,000 steps behind. We have a lot of great police work, but that doesn't get played on the evening news or in the newspaper with all the great work they're doing. So I would engage you to help us and with ideas and with formats and with things that we need. Prince George's County, we really need more police officers or people who desire to be a police to come through our doors in this trying and challenging times. That's what I really would ask. But outside of what I talked about earlier, it would be very important for us to engage in all aspects of what we talked about in any forum that we can, in any avenue that we can, whether that is in person, it is by electronic or social media, whether it's by email or flyers on doors or hanging some of our tags talking about lock, take, and hide, or lock it and lose it, or any of the other programs that we have been doing for community engagement, not just since I shown up, but for many, many years that we've been doing, that we need. It's a constant fight, and we need a community helping us as you do and supporting us and in inviting more people in to have a vested interest in community and a vested interest in making sure that we don't lose our communities, that we maintain them and we progress them into what is better for everyone. So those are just a few things that I would ask for, but we need some real help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lark. And whoever is in his iPhone, I'm not sure the name.
Yes, hi, my name is Daisy Medina, and I just have a concern. It's almost what he was saying about that we don't have patrols for Hollywood Elementary, and a lot of kids are crossing the street running without their parents supervising and everything. And most of the parents were being so concerning about it, seeing all that going on, because they haven't put no patrol. Normally, every year they have patrols.
Well, yeah, I think Major Coletti would probably be better served to answer that question over there, and maybe Deputy Chief Price may be able to offer something up to it.
So my question is, when you're talking about patrols, are you talking about the school crossing guards? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, I think Deputy Chief Price would be able to talk about our staffing when it comes to school crossing guards.
Yeah, how's everybody doing tonight? Thank you for the opportunity to come out and talk to everybody. I really do appreciate it. I see some familiar names on here. I know Mr. Ryan, we've dealt several times over the years. Ma'am, in regards to your question, we do have the crossing guards under my bureau. Right now, that's kind of what the chief was saying, as far as being ambassadors and trying to go get people out to help. We're short. There's just no way around it. They're kind of feeling the same thing that we are with the police force. I am going to put my email in the chat box here in a little bit. I'd love for you to shoot me an email and kind of get an idea of the specific problems, so I can send it down to the crossing guards and see if there's anything that we can do to get some help out there. But we are severely short. So if you guys know anybody that's interested in being crossing guards, we could use the help. But it's a problem I'd like to look into. So I'll put my email in the chat for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
And that's great. Thank you, Deputy Chief Price. We're looking for school crossing guards. If you know anybody who may want to, work a few hours in the morning or evening helping our kids cross the street, let them know that we are definitely hiring for school crossing guards.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions? Is there one chance to ask the chief anything you want? Todd, Mr. Reitzel.
So actually, thank you, Mayor Nguyen. This actually may not be for the chief, but I'll just go ahead and ask it. You know, I'm concerned that there's an increase in red light running in our area. I've seen some red light running at the intersection of University Boulevard and Rhode Island Avenue. But I see a lot of red light running at the intersection of Edgewood Road and Rhode Island Avenue. Those are two pretty busy roads, but not just with vehicles, lots of pedestrians and some cyclists too. And, you know, I know the county installed red light cameras at that intersection a few years ago, but they were never activated. And I think, if I recall correctly, that was I don't know, but maybe that was a city decision. I'm not sure. And I'm just wondering, I'm pretty sure they're not active. So I'm wondering what can be done, particularly at that intersection, to address red light running. I'm concerned there's going to be an accident. And so I'd like to know people's thoughts on that.
I think Deputy Chief Price would be able to answer your question on that one, Todd.
Sure. Again, I have a automated enforcement under me. So I did put my email in the chat. So please go ahead and shoot me an email with that information on that intersection. And I can check for you to see if they're active or what the status of those cameras are. You know, we're always looking at new technology and trying to acquire more technology. So, you know, I'll be able to pull some data from that intersection and see if it qualifies, you know, for a camera if they don't have one there. But you're saying there is one there currently?
Yes.
I might be able to help out with that actually, because that was put in a couple of years ago, I think before the pandemic, and we got a lot of complaints. And I think that the reason why there were a lot of complaints about it was that it seemed that it was set at a very sensitive level, that even in some cases there were people who said that they were turning right on red and had legally stopped and proceeded to turn right on red and were still getting tickets for it. We got several people raise concerns with the city, and the city actually asked the county, because of the concern about it, to not operate the camera there. So it's possible that if it is operated at a way so that it doesn't capture people who are doing something that's legal, turning right on red.
No, I understand what you're saying, Mayor, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll see if it's a calibration issue and maybe get the service techs out there to take a look at it. You know, but once we do fix it, you know, they got to stop. They got to stop at that line. So, but we'll see what we can do, okay, and try to get that up and running, and you know, obviously, make sure it's calibrated correctly.
Yeah, maybe I see my colleagues from the city council have raised their hand. So, Ms. Mitchell.
Is it a city camera or a county camera? Do we know?
It's a county camera.
Okay.
Although the city recently negotiated an agreement where we're going to be taking over Rhode Island Avenue from the city or from the county, and we'll also be taking over operation of that intersection. So that's something that the city may be taking over in the not too distant future. It looks like Councilmember Mitchell, unfortunately, is having some oh, there she is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope everyone can hear me. My internet may be a little bit unstable, but it's also great to have the opportunity to meet Chief Aziz, and I wish you the best of luck here in the Prince George's County. I am in the western part of the city, and we have a lot of concerns on Metzerock Road with speeding, and I didn't know if there was a camera at the intersection of Adelphi and Metzerock. But we have drag racing occurring, especially on the weekends. And they are drag racing from Metzerock and crossing over Adelphi and going over almost to New Hampshire Avenue. So I didn't know if there was an opportunity to look into that as well, because it is a concern, especially during the weekends, and especially on Metzerock because it's dark in some parts on Metzerock Road.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I think Deputy Chief Price put his contact information in the chat, but Major Coletti may be able to shine some light on the actions that are already taking place over there with the drag racing.
So, thank you, Chief. Councilmember Mitchell, as you know, we conduct operations historically. We target the drag racers. We follow them on social media. You know, the contract officers, along with the officers assigned to Division I, write many citations regarding this. But as I stated in previous meetings, unfortunately, we are not allowed to pursue a vehicle that takes off from us, that flee from us. So that's one problem that we do have. It's against our policy to chase somebody just for exceeding the posted speed limit for drag racing. But as I said many times in this outlet, we do conduct operations. We use our aviation unit. We use our special operations division to target these groups. This is not just something that goes on in the College Park area. This goes on in the DC metropolitan area. This is, like I said, it's not unique to College Park. That happens in Baltimore City. It happens everywhere, but we do our best to stop these individuals and issue the proper citations to them.
I know, Major Colette, I know you're doing your best. Just hopefully that maybe we can get a camera or something to try to capture that.
And Councilmember Mitchell, if I can just jump in on that, please do send me the information, because we, as you know, Maryland has passed a bill specific to Prince George's County and the placement of new cameras in residential areas. We're just kind of waiting for the county council to kind of finalize their end of it. But if you send me the information, that might be a prime location for one when this bill is up and running. So.
Yeah, and
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Mitchell, we're also working with one of these state delegates on putting some teeth inside of our, hold on for a minute. We're trying to make sure that we put some teeth inside the legislation that's taking place. So she called us up to ask us about what we would do and what it would take to make the law more venerable or more better. And we offered her some things and that she's going to come back with us in a couple of weeks. So we'll be able to get those things put into legislation, and maybe the legislation will pass. I don't know, but we added some value to it, and they had researched some of the things that we did in Texas. And I think that worked. But we'll tow your vehicle and do some other things, but we're just going to try to throw everything out there so that it can actually be more beneficial to what we're doing. Because I understand your concern. When I see some of the videos that have been given to me, they have been absolutely terrible and outrageous with the young people who are shutting down streets and doing a very dangerous thing, and it has killed people in some places, and it's hurt people, and it's trapped us in neighborhoods and other places, and it can't be tolerated. So I echo your sentiments on that we're going to have to actually do something about it, and maybe a state law will help us have further action on it. So we're going to work on it really, really hard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Kabir?
I believe Mr. Ryan has some follow-up comments on the camera thing.
Yes, thank you. I can. The city does have a speed camera on Metzerat Road. It enforces in both directions, and it's located between the pedestrian crosswalks just to, well, at St. Andrews and to the southeast of St. Andrews. The county has red light enforcement cameras on Adelphi at Metzerat.
Thank you. So if I may, my comment is about the crossing guards in the community. I know I did some research. Officer Price, you're right. Your website says you have been looking for crossing guards for several months now. And it's a county-wide problem. It's not a Hollywood or College Park problem. I have come across so many parents in the community. They have been asking me that they don't feel safe about crossing that intersection in Hollywood going to the Hollywood Elementary School, Rhode Island Avenue and Edgewood Road at that intersection. As a matter of fact, this morning I got an email, and my council colleague Kate Kennedy and me, both of us received an email from the Hollywood Elementary School PTA, Parent Teacher Association group, that this problem is a really serious problem. So they're asking what it can do. I know we have been looking for it for many months now, and we'll be helping you in finding anyone in the community. If you have any flyers or anything in the digital media, please send that to us. You can send to Mr. Ryan, and we can send that in the community. They can volunteer, or I think this is a paid position, so it's many people probably do not know. I believe it's more than a year now we don't have any crossing guards, and in the meantime, is it possible, I was thinking, if we can have any officer either from your side, PGPD side, or from our contract police program side, even have an officer be present in the morning for even half hour when the school starts, and when the school actually ends in the afternoon. That will be really appreciated. Parents will really appreciate that. So if you please consider that, I'll really love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we'll absolutely look into it. I would really like to get that email from the residents or from whoever, just kind of stating the issues so I can go to the crossing guards. We're down over, unfortunately, the pandemic really hit that group of employees hard because it typically tends to be older employees that have actually retired and have now come out and do it. I'll send you the job announcement. It's usually 4 hours a day. It can go up to 6 hours a day, but in the kind of pays. But if you guys can put that over your social media platforms, that'd be awesome. Like the chief always says, it's 50-50. If you guys, any help we can get is greatly appreciated. But send me the information and let me see if we can find a good resolution for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kabir. Maybe I'll take this opportunity. I just want to give a shout out to our two community liaison officers, Corporal Lobin and Corporal Nunez, who do great work for us, and they're always very responsive and very helpful whenever we have problems. So take the opportunity to talk them up to their boss and say we want to keep them around, as long as they're willing to stay with us. So. Any other questions that folks want to ask? Jamie's cat has some questions, I think. Okay. Going once, going twice. Well, this has been really great. Really appreciate you spending the time with us, Chief. I'm sure you're very busy. Got a lot going on around the county. So thank you for the opportunity and all the information that you provided this evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for being such a wonderful group, and Mr. Mayor for being a wonderful host. And I'm looking forward to our engagement with each other, our 50-50, and working to make our county safer and better, and making College Park safer and better. So thank you so much for inviting me here and having a chance to engage with you on this format.
Thank you. And thank you to Deputy Chief Price, to the other officers that have joined us this evening. You all do great work. We appreciate your service.
Thank you all for your support. We appreciate that.
Okay. So I'll turn it back to Mr. Ryan. I think, was there anything else that we needed to cover this evening? I think that was the,
this completes our agenda. And just to thank everyone who participated, and similarly to the police request, please share information with your neighbors, your friends. We're trying to build this monthly community meeting so that we can share information with a broader audience throughout the city. So please invite your neighbors to join us second Monday of every month. Thank you.
Thank you. And so the next one will be December 13th, I believe.
Yes.
And do we know yet what the topic will be that evening?
We don't. We're taking suggestions. And so anyone who has a good idea, something you'd like to learn more about, please send us your suggestions. We've had emergency management, we've had fire prevention, and so we're looking at public safety and with a broad lens. And so any ideas that you have, please share them with us.
Great. All right. Then if there's nothing else, thank you, Mr. Ryan. Thank you, Ms. Fletcher, our staff. We're also joined by the city manager, Mr. Young. Thank you all for your work in putting this together. And if there's nothing further, I want to thank all of you for coming and joining us for this important conversation. And please be in touch if there's anything, if you have any ideas about what other things that we can discuss, or if there's any other questions that you have.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good night.
Go Steelers.